Oh, hi, you found us.
We're Steph and Jen. We're both sleep consultants, we're both mums, and we're here to help you and your little ones get some much needed sleep. So, just a wee disclaimer before we begin. Anything that we discuss on this podcast is not medical advice. The discussions we will have are intended to give some guidance to parents that want it. However, every child is different, and as a parent, you will be the one that knows what is best for your child. If our chats help you, then that's amazing. But if you don't feel it resonates with you or you're happy doing things your own way, then that's absolutely fine too. If things are working for you, don't feel you need to change anything. Welcome back to Mama Needs Sleep. This episode, we're going to be talking about setting up for success. And so we're going to start talking a little bit about bedtime routine and why we need routines.
Yep, so a bedtime routine should be so straightforward that you can do it anywhere and it doesn't matter who's looking after your child. It's a routine that can be followed by anyone. The routines are really important for children as much as they are for adults because it lets you know what's coming next. So if you think about it, when you get up in the morning, you get up, you brush your teeth, you have your breakfast, or you go for a shower, you have your kind of rhythm of the way that you do things in the morning. That's your routine. And it's the same for children. They know what's coming next and they feel safe when they know what's coming next. So it means that when you're putting them into bed and they've had this routine that you're doing every single night, they know that when they're in bed that it's safe, that they can fall asleep, that they're safe and they're happy. And yeah, it's just really a good thing to have.
So with bedtime routines, they can be started right away from birth.
Yep.
Newborns, you don't have to start right away, but I would definitely recommend from kind of 3-4 months onwards. It's a really good thing to get into the habit of, just like what you were saying, Steph, it's so supportive and comforting for children if they know the expectation and they know what's coming next and they can anticipate that. So in general, if you were looking to begin a bedtime routine, kind of how do you go about it? What do you include? How do you set it up? So for children kind of up to sort of around age 5, the kind of gold standard bedtime is around about 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And that is just because of the hormones that they produce at bedtime tend to be at their peak around about that time. Anything between kind of 6 and 8 p.m. is still perfectly fine, and it can sort of shift within that time frame as well, depending on how your day is gone. A routine you kind of want to be maybe around the kind of half-hour mark.
Yeah, from start to finish. So from you starting that routine until they're in their bed.
Yeah, and that's just because it's kind of enough time to allow them to have a nice wind down, but not too long that they start almost becoming alert again and starting to get a second wind and wake back up. Obviously, if you're still breastfeeding or on bath nights, you will get nights that routine goes a little bit longer, but it's just being aware of the kind of the general steps that you do. You want to kind of have a bit of an end goal in sight and not have it dragging out and taking sort of 2 hours. So when I say bedtime, and this is something my husband always pulls me up on, there's a difference between when you start your bedtime routine and bedtime as in when you want your child to be asleep.
Yeah.
So with a bedtime of 7 o'clock, that would be with the intention of your child actually being in bed ready for sleep at 7. So in that instance, you'd be looking to start your bedtime routine about 6:30.
Yeah.
So therefore, your bedtime window of 6 till 8, actually starting your bedtime is probably 5:30 till 7:30 is really what you're looking for. And so, as you said, you want to keep it nice and simple. You want it to be the same steps in the same order every night, and it to be something that every caregiver is doing the same way. So whether it's mum, dad, grandparents, babysitters, everyone can know the routine, follow that same routine, and so it doesn't matter who's putting the child to bed, the child knows what's coming and that bedtime is approaching.
So Jen, what would you say a good kind of guide for a bedtime routine looks like?
So I mean, the actual steps don't matter as much as the consistency.
Yeah.
The one big thing I would say is you always want to have at least one step between feeding and putting to sleep. So if you are still breastfeeding or bottle feeding or even giving kids a snack before bed, you basically don't want that to be the last thing you do right before they fall asleep. So a great step in between is a bedtime story.
Yeah.
And a little tip is to stick to one bedtime story and be really strict with this, because when they're very wee, it wouldn't make much difference. But especially when you get into kind of toddlerhood and beyond, children love to stall at bedtime. And if there is a glimmer of hope that story becomes 2 stories,
please, just one
3
more,
stories,
Mom, please.
4 stories, a song and a dance, they will push for that. So if you start early with no, bedtime is one story, and stick with it, it will make your life so much easier further down the line.
Yeah, 100%.
So I mean, in terms of our bedtime routine, like what we do in our house, so we like kind of like say a normal bedtime routine might be something like bath, into the bedroom, jammies on, give a bottle, breastfeed, do a story, and then into bed. But it doesn't have to be totally rigid. So like my wee boy has eczema, so we don't bath every night because it would dry his skin out quite badly.
Yep.
So we do a bath on alternate nights. But we always start his bedtime routine by doing his teeth. And then once we come out of the bathroom, the routine in his bedroom is exactly the same every night. So while some nights he'll go get his teeth done and then go for a bath, other nights he just gets his teeth done and goes straight into bedroom. But once we're in the bedroom, it's the same. So it is into, well, clean nappy on, moisturiser on, jammies, into sleeping bag, story, bed.
Yeah.
That's another quite good point, is you should always try and do your bedtime routine in the area that the little one's going to go to sleep. So especially like if you are doing baths and things and maybe do want a snack or having milk, you don't want to be trailing them all around the house, because that's going to be really stimulating. So fair enough, the bath's going to be bright and noisy and there's going to be toys, but once you are in the kind of thick of the bedtime routine, you ideally want to be in their bedroom or in your bedroom if they're still in your room, but basically in their sleep space, and you want it to be a very much set up for sleep environment. So you want it to be dark, you want you know,
if you've got a noise machine, have the noise machine on so you're coming into that.
But don't have like noisy toys in the room. Don't take your mobile phone in if you can help it. Even as a parent, you kind of want to adopt that like calming persona. So I always think like you're at the spa. Go in with like your calm and your quiet voice. So yes, you can be like obviously like, interacting and like playing with your child to an extent, but you don't want to be like riling them up.
Yeah, calm. Keep it calm. So yeah, like in our house, like once dinner's finished, because we generally have quite a late dinner just by the time we all get in from all of our various classes and activities. Like we have dinner and then we get the bath running, and while the bath's running, one of us will sit down and read the kids a story, like in the couch, just a bit of like calm before bath. And then my girls quite like a sleepy bath, so we put a wee bit of lavender oil in the bath, so it's just like helps calm them. So yeah, they take the spa. And then once they're out, like when they get up in the morning, I always put their pajamas on their bed so that they're ready for the next day. So they'll come out of their bath, we go upstairs, we put their pajamas on, they get into bed, they get a kiss night, and then I leave. Like they know that this is what's happening, because my kids are that wee bit older as well. Like they're almost 3 and 6. Like Jessica's been doing this exact same routine since she was 6 weeks old.
And they'll tell you if you miss a step.
Yeah. Well, actually, I said to Jessica tonight, Jessica, what's your bedtime routine? And she was like, well, I have my dinner, and then I have a story, and then I go and brush my teeth, and then I need to remember to do a pee-pee, because if I don't remember to do a pee-pee, I have to cut out the bath and do a pee-pee, and then that confuses me because I've not done it in the right order. And I was like, this girl's got it. Like,
and that
she knows.
Brings us on quite nicely to sort of the sleep cues.
Yes.
This episode sponsored by Kidlocale. It's a brand new online directory for families in Scotland, founded by a local mum. Whether it's childcare, days out, family finances, clubs, classes, or help and support in parenthood, Kidlocale covers it all. Visit www.kidlocale.co.uk and simply search by location or the type of business you're looking for, and in seconds you'll find an array of results. With new partners being added every week, subscribe to the monthly newsletter and follow Kidlocale on social media to be kept up to date with all things kids in your local area.
So yeah, for older children, what's quite good is actually having like a visual cue, like so that like the children know like what like a picture of like them having a snack or having dinner, and then a picture of them, like, or not of them in the bath, but like of a graphic of a child in a bath, and then a picture of like them in their bed with a story. Or
so it's
like,
almost like instructions for them to follow.
So that they can see it, so that they know, they can look at it and go, right, okay, I've had my bath, what's next? Oh, right, I need to get my jammies on and get into bed so I can get my story. Or like, then the last one is always a picture of a child sleeping. And then they know, right, the last thing before I go to sleep is I need to be like in my bed and go to sleep.
And I guess that's quite handy as well if it isn't like mum or dad or the normal person doing bedtime. You know, if grandparents or something are there, they've also got that to kind of make sure that they're doing things in the right order.
Well, I've had like feedback from like families that I've worked with that have actually said like, so Granny was looking after them tonight, and they brought out the card before we left just to say, right, okay, this is what we need to do before bed, and explained it to the grandparent. I thought that's so sweet. Like that, they know that this is their bedtime routine, and it's something that they can follow and actually show other caregivers, like, this is what we need to do, and then I know I can go to sleep and I'm safe. Like, and it just shows that it does work. And I would say anywhere from the age of 2 upwards, this, like, a visual cue sheet works. Like, it's something that if you don't want to make them yourself, or you don't know how to make them yourself, just send us a wee DM and I can send you over a template. But yeah, they're so easy to make, like, and they're so worth it for older children who maybe just need a wee bit of reminding, or that, especially like if they're starting school and there's so much change for them, having this, which is consistent for them, really, really does help.
It's just that familiarity then, and they have that little bit of stability.
Yeah, and it almost gives them that wee bit of control as well, because as we know, like, as children get older, they need control. So it gives them a bit of control because they know what's happening. They know what's going on, and they know, right, okay, well, actually, now is when I do this. So if anything deviates from that, they'll be like, that's not quite right. And then they'll tell you. So yeah, I love a visual cue.
So the next thing we're going to talk a bit about is self-settling, because I think not everybody knows necessarily what self-settling is and what it means.
Yeah, so self-settling basically means that your baby, your child, is able to fall asleep independently and return to sleep after waking with little to no crying. So pretty much, if they wake up during the middle of the night, they can go back to sleep themselves. Like, self-settling is something babies and children learn to do over time. Some babies need a wee bit more support to master this skill than others. And it's completely normal for your baby, your child, to wake up during the night multiple times. It is just that inability to fall back asleep independently that can start to cause some problems, especially as they get older, that it's not necessarily that they need fed to go back to sleep.
Yeah, there's that reliance on how did they fall asleep, and do they need that?
Exactly, yeah. So, like, if you're kind of helping your baby or child fall asleep independently from a young age, the older they get, the easier it becomes for them, because they're learning this new skill, and it is just something that over time, and the more you're consistent with it, consistency is one of our favourite words, you probably hear in every single podcast, but the more you are consistent with it and actually, like, support your child to fall asleep independently, the better they'll get at it, and then overnight they'll be able to do it themselves as well.
And we talked a little bit about that, like back in episode 2, we're talking about like the sleep cycles.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how you'll know if your child hasn't mastered that skill of self-settling yet, if they are waking up after every sleep cycle and needing parent or the caregiver to come in and actually be the ones to help them get back to sleep. They don't have the ability to do that on their own.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, I suppose, like, we should probably talk about wake windows.
The other buzzword, isn't it?
Yeah.
And again, I think it's one of these things that you go to mum classes and people talk about wake windows, and I think a lot of people there are kind of like, I don't really know what that means. And the wake window, quite literally, is just the time from when your little one wakes up to when they next fall asleep.
Yep.
So because they are still developing, their wee brains just get quite overwhelmed, and they don't have the ability to stay awake for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And so they do need to go. Well, they'll need to nap usually up until around age 3, 4. It varies child to child, but certainly, young babies. It's, if you can follow their wake windows, it just gives you an indication of when's the good time to put them down for their naps and put them to bed, where it will be the easiest for them to fall asleep.
Yeah.
So, wake windows will grow with time. So from newborns, they have very, very short wake windows. And then as kind of move into slightly older babies, moving into toddlers, these wake windows grow until eventually they get to a point where they can last sort of 6-8 hours without needing any kind of downtime. And that's usually when naps get dropped and no longer needed.
Yeah.
So there's lots and lots of information online, and I think probably both mine and Steph's social media pages will give you kind of charts and indications of average wake windows by age. But it is just that, it is an average, which means there will always be kids that need more sleep and kids that need less sleep, kids that can stay awake longer, and kids that are below the average in terms of how long they can stay awake. So always kind of take the information with a pinch of salt, and the most important thing is to keep an eye on your own child, and you can figure out their specific wake windows. So the guidance is just there, so you've got your starting point. So if you had no idea what your wake windows for your child might be, what I would say is always look at the kind of lower end of the average. So let's say that for their age, your child has a supposed average wake window of 2 to 4 hours. I would work on the assumption that they can last for 2 hours. From that 2 hour point, I'd be just keeping a really close eye on them to see if they start showing sleepy cues. And so sleepy cues can be things like yawning, eye rubbing,
ear rubbing.
Ear pulling, general kind of fussiness, clumsiness. Basically any kind of signs that your child is tired. And usually once they are showing those sleep cues, they're kind of already tired and past that sweet spot of when they should have gone to sleep. So when you start noticing those signs, the wake window was probably about 10 minutes earlier. So if you're then working off on assumptions, let's say you're watching your child, they get to about 2.5 hours of being awake, all of a sudden they start yawning and getting a bit fussy and agitated, and you think, oh yeah, that's them, they're tired. So actually probably 2 hours 20 was their ideal wake window.
Exactly.
So with that, you also want to be kind of mindful, a bit like what I was saying with bedtime. If you want your child to be asleep at 2 hours 20 after they woke up, you don't want to start thinking about putting them to sleep at 2 hours 20. You want to already have them ready for like being in their bed already, or being in a place where they can fall asleep. So you probably want to start getting them ready for their nap sort of 2 hours 10 after they wake up. So it's just about being kind of mindful of when that sweet spot is likely to hit, and trying to preempt it and get them ready for bed before that.
And we were talking earlier as well about, like, with wake windows, a lot of the things online that you can see, there's so much information out there that it can get quite confusing. And one thing that we were talking about is that some people will recommend that they had the longest wake window before like bedtime, and other people, like, they'll recommend, no, you can still get like a wee short nap in there and still have the same length of wake window time. And we were kind of talking about how our children are complete opposites on this, like that if when my children don't nap apart from when we're on holiday, but like if I was to put Emily down for a nap, well, at all now, but like when she was a wee bit younger, if I was to put her down for a nap within like 3 hours of bedtime, that would push bedtime so late. Whereas, like you were saying, that
that's probably the more common. You know, I know people will say, like, if the kid has like a danger nap, like too close to bedtime, that's it. They're up
like
till midnight.
after 4 o'clock.
Whereas, you know, certainly, like, well, not so much with my daughter, but with Kaelin, I think he could probably sleep till 6 o'clock at night, be up for half an hour and go back to bed. He's so regimented with his kind of 7 o'clock bedtime that it doesn't matter when he slept throughout the day, he is going to bed at 7 no matter what. He's just so structured in his routine now. But yeah, like the other thing is that the wake, just to make it even more complicated, the wake windows don't always kind of form an even pattern throughout the day. So you might find that in the morning your child has a wake window of 2 hours 20, but actually then in the middle of the day they can last a bit longer, and they might have a 3 hour wake window in the afternoon, and then a 4 hour wake window at bedtime.
And this is where that kind of guide of like 2 to 4 hours comes in, because it can vary throughout the day, and
it's not an exact science at all. It is very much it's guidance.
So our kind of takeaway from this is, like, watch your child, look for their cues, and then you figure out their own wake windows, and then you can kind of plan your day around that.
And you don't even really need to have it sussed. It's really just if things start to go wrong. So if you cannot get your child to nap and you're racking your brains thinking, right, what do I do here?
Yeah.
That's when these things become handy little tools, because you can be like, right, okay, let's try and work out the wake window, and let's just do a bit of experimenting. If we put them down at that time that I think is the right time, does that make a difference? Does it make life easier? Or might give you an explanation if you've totally missed a wake window and suddenly your child is hyper and wired and you're thinking, what on earth's happened here?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, do you know what? Yeah, they were due a nap an hour ago. That's what's wrong.
Why.
And it just gives you that wee bit of peace of mind that it's a temporary thing and there's a fix.
Exactly. So one thing that we discussed as well, Jem, was Harvey Kemp's 5 S's for settling.
Yeah, so this is very much geared to the kind of, well, the newborn babies, the 4th trimester, that kind of introduction to the world where everything is new. And if you have an unsettled baby, if you have a particularly like refluxy, colicky baby and you cannot settle them, it can be really, really distressing. So Harvey Karp, his method is the 5 S's, and it's basically just 5 tips to try to settle your baby. So the first S is for swaddling. So it basically, you're trying to recreate that feeling of being all snuggly in the womb.
Yep.
So it gives security. It also stops the startle reflex, which can be something that wakes babies up a lot when they're sleeping. I think we spoke about that in previous episodes as well. You can get various different types of swaddles. So personally, I love the Velcro ones that you get off Amazon, because that whole trying to make the baby into a burrito, I am useless at that.
Oh, that's my favourite one, like the baby burrito. Like, I love it.
You get one arm in, the other arm pops out. You think you've got it sussed, and then they move. Oh,
maybe I'll do a wee video for socials on how to do that one.
I think, that would be quite helpful. How to do it and how to do it successfully, probably. But certainly. So I mean, our house, we loved a Velcro swaddle, but important to note, it is only until babies are able to roll over. Once they're at a point of rolling over, it's not really safe to swaddle them anymore, because then they can end up getting a bit trapped.
Yep.
But yes, certainly for early days, first 12 weeks, babies really enjoy being swaddled, and it helps them to kind of ease into sleep and just calm them down a little bit as well. The next S is for shushing. So again, you're just trying to mimic the womb and what they're used to. So creating a nice kind of familiar, comforting sound. They're used to being in the womb and hearing mum's blood rushing around them. And so that kind of shushing noise. So it can either be you yourself shushing your baby or white noise. And it's just that.
I remember the days of just going shh. That's effectively what you're doing.
Which again brings us on to the next one, which is the swinging, which again, you're just trying to recreate that jiggling around in your belly when they're in the womb. Yeah. So like babies that like to be rocked to sleep, that's why. It's because, the whole 9 months of gestation, they have been everywhere you go, they go, and they're getting jolted around all over the place. So they're very used to being in motion, and that's what they find comforting. So next S for swinging. Then you've got your side stomach position. So again, particularly nice for kind of colicky, refluxy babies. So important to note, it is only to be done when the baby is awake. So it is for soothing, it's not for sleeping. But basically what you can do it a few different ways, but it's quite nice if you can hold the baby on their left side and have their stomach against your forearm with their face facing out, and you can be sort of rubbing their back, and it's just then again they feel nice and supported. There's a little bit of pressure. They're on their left side, which helps to aid their digestion. And they're also right next to you, and so it's a really, really kind of nice, comforting position for them. You can have them up kind of on your shoulder, and that kind of more traditional kind of winding.
Especially for refluxy babies, that's quite good to have them up over your shoulder doing it.
Or even again while they're awake and you're there with them, but even just having them lie on their left side, and just be kind of rubbing their back, and it can be a really nice way to calm them down. And then the last S is for sucking. And so, again, it's just something that really provides comfort. It actually causes a drop in heart rate and blood pressure, just that motion that they do. And so it helps to kind of ease any feelings of stress. So that's why you quite often find babies falling asleep while they're feeding, and also dummies. And that's the method that they use. That's how they provide comfort, is it causes that nice kind of relaxation and de-stress.
Yeah, we found ourselves many a time when Jessica was little that if she was a very colicky baby, So we found that if we turned the lights out in the kitchen and ran the tap and just stood with her in that position, like with her left side down and just kind of bouncing her, like she would just like calm. It was almost like instant.
The one I've heard loads recently is the extractor fan in the kitchen.
Yep.
That seems to do wonders.
Yeah. It's amazing what household appliances and structures can do to calm your baby. Hair dryers and hoovers, I've heard, are really good as well. But again, they're creating that kind of whooshing, that kind of shing sound that is soothing and calm for a baby.
And I think because people always say, "Oh, shh, the baby's sleeping," and actually, fair enough through the night, but during the day, and if baby's napping, and particularly in that kind of newborn phase where they're sleeping on and off, kind of all throughout the day. Noise is what they're used to. Yeah. Quiet is actually what's really unfamiliar to them and is a bit more disturbing for them.
That's why like newborns can generally sleep through the dog barking at the postman or
and they'll sleep anywhere because they're used to being in motion, they're used to noise. Yeah. So don't be afraid to move around and make lots of noise with a newborn baby. They will still sleep. Yep. You'll probably help them sleep better. So at the end of each episode, we always do our hack of the week and our fail of the week. So Steph, do you want to start us off with your hack of the week?
Yep. So my hack of the week is something that years of nannying and trial and error has taught me. We all know those dreaded stains, like when you're weaning or when your child's eating fruit, especially berries, and it always seems to get on the white clothes. So I've tried so many different things over the years to get these stains out, and I have found what works. Are you ready for this?
Please tell me.
Boiled water.
That's
Not while your child is in the clothes, obviously. Take the clothes off your child, put the clothes in the sink and run boiled water over it, and it just disappears in front of your eyes. It's amazing. So simple. I'm going to record this and put it on like our grids just to show you how it works. It's amazing. Still to find a hack for the like food stains, like the orange food, baby food that you get in jars, like
the stuff that comes out of the pouches. What is in them?
I know. So if anyone has a hack for getting those orange stains out, please get in touch and tell us because like
it's everything. The bowls, the spoons, the bibs, everything stained.
Yep. Yeah. So do you want to share your fail with us this week, Jen?
Yes. So, speaking of berries, my fail again this week is food related.
There's a recurring theme here, Jen.
Yeah, so last time it was going to the supermarket with a toddler. I learned some lessons. I'm not going to do that again. Thought this time I'll take the baby. What could go wrong? She's a delight. And we're at that point where... So, when they're very wee and you're trying to work out how to go to the supermarket with them because they can't sit up yet in a trolley, but there's no point in going in with a pram because then you can't pick anything up. And if you go in wearing the sling or the carrier, it's fine when you're doing your shopping, but then when you're trying to like reach into the trolley to lift stuff out and it ends up, tipping over and you're all hot and bothered. So she's finally at an age where she can sit up really well. I thought we can use the seat in the trolley, can get a proper full shop. Great. So got there, rocked up to get my trolley, but what did I not have with me?
Oh, your pound.
The trolley pound. So I have a special little ducat in my car where the trolley pound lives. But after the previous supermarket fiasco, in my haste to get out of there, I didn't return the trolley pound to its trolley pound spot. And as I went to get it this time, it wasn't there. I thought, well, look around, there's always a stray trolley. There's always one lying loose. I thought, it's fine, we'll be in luck. Nope. This was the most well-organised trolley park you've ever seen. Every trolley chained up beautifully. So I thought, right, okay, well, I'm here now. We'll just go for a small shop. I thought, we'll just carry her in my arms and we'll just grab a basket, get a couple of essentials, it'll be fine. Did not appreciate how much you use your other hand when you're holding a baby. Like, they constantly just slide down and you're constantly like having to
especially if you're walking around the supermarket.
Yeah, for some reason, never noticed how much I did that. So have her in one arm, pick up the basket, and like that, right away, she's like sliding down my side. I'm like, right, okay, fine. Next problem is you're holding baby in one hand and a basket in the other, so you don't have a hand free to pick anything up off the shelves. So I was like, no, it's fine. We'll put the basket on my arm, baby on the hip. I've got a free hand now to pick things up off the shelf. But you have to be a contortionist to get the thing from your hand into the basket, because you have to just kind of fling it backwards. So I ended up going around the shop, getting to the thing I wanted on the shelf, putting the basket on the ground, hoiking the baby back up so she wasn't slipping down, putting the thing from the shelf into the basket, picking the basket back up, moving another couple of steps, same thing all over again. It was a disaster. So yeah, moral of the story, just go to the supermarket yourself. Yeah. Don't take the children with you.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. If you would like us to cover anything or you have any questions, please get in touch through our Instagram at mama.needs.sleep. Our inbox is always open.